I would like to call to order the regularly scheduled board meeting of the Parish Union School District Number 95 Board of Education for Monday, April the 13th. Let the record show that all members are present except for members Calvert and Isaac. The voting sequence for this meeting is as follows: Idle, Sanchez, Tuttle, Bailey, and Davis. Anyone like to address the board this evening?
I have a question. I was asked, I've been asked by several people, and I really don't know the answer. And rather than make something up, I thought I would ask, and it's about early retirement. Now, when I retired, this plan wasn't in, I'm sure, in '99. But now,
It's not early retirement.
or what is it called? Is it
Just a retirement incentive. that
retirement
is.
incentive? Okay.
So if you're early retiring and we have to pay a penalty when you retire, you are not eligible for it.
Okay. Now, am I right off the start? Am I right when they say they want to retire and they turn in their letter 4 years in advance?
Mhm.
They get a 6% raise per year.
Right.
Now, is that compounded, or is it just a simple 6% every year?
6%, well, it's gonna be compound, you're gonna get whatever you
Okay.
make with your 6%.
So if you make I'll just use $100,000. I don't think too many teachers make that, do you? Well, $100,000, that'd be $6,000 a year. So $106,000 the first year, then it's
Right.
6% of $106,000.
That's it.
So really it's gonna be, 24, Tom's the CPA. It's gonna be over $126,000 then, right?
Right.
On that. Now, is that required by the state
No.
that you do
There's
that?
not a requirement by the state. What happened was the state put into effect a rule that nobody could make more than a 6% pay increase. If we had teacher
Right.
negotiations or anything,
Right.
we could not give anything more than 6. If we did, the district was responsible for
Mhm.
that portion. So it basically was kind of initiated, not by the unions or anything, by the state, to say if you offer people, when they've been around 30-some years, this incentive and they're eligible to retire, they may make that decision. Let's say they're making 56,000, whatever, and you're gonna hire back in at 20-some thousand. So the whole incentive was meant to actually save districts money in the long run. Yeah, that person's gonna make some more those last 4 years than they would have getting their 3% or something, because most of the time we've given 2.5%, 3%. They'll get 3% more a year. But at the same time, they may leave in those 4 years when they would have stayed another 8, and you're gonna hire somebody back in at maybe half the cost. So that was the basic premise behind it.
Yeah, I don't know that is
Well,
valid anymore.
whatever,
But that's the basic premise.
Right.
Now, is it just for staff? Or do IMRF people get that too, or
If you give it to them, yes.
do you give it to?
We've given it, as you were here, to supervisory 12-month employees that were supervisory.
Okay, so not everybody in the district gets it.
No,
Why not?
that just hasn't been our policy at this point. We could always change that policy. Or we
Okay,
could
so-
always add to the, it's
Right,
always
right.
just
No, I
been the
don't-
teachers.
I'm not complaining about the
No,
6%. I'm just
teachers
saying
negotiated it in.
what's good for the goose ought to be pretty good for the gander, because it's going to be the secretary or the custodian that's been here for a number of years
Right.
and it doesn't make that much, that
Right.
doesn't see any of this, is that right?
No, they don't. No.
Uh-huh.
But that's something the board or the new board could discuss if they'd like to extend it to them. Or you never know, when the next teacher contract comes around, some districts are taking it out entirely.
Yeah,
So that's still up for negotiation. It's
Well, yeah,
always
that would-
negotiable.
with the 6%, excuse me, with the 6% raise, that's going to increase the pension
Mhm.
by a bunch on some people.
Well, that's why they figure it's an
Right.
incentive for the person to make them want to retire, and also then the districts then go
Right.
hire.
Now, what are the qualifications then to qualify or be eligible for this, you have to have 20 years or?
Yes, you have to be eligible to retire and at least
Okay.
have, and in most cases, it's been 20 years and over. You have to be, well, for teachers especially, it always was an age plus your years, and they combine those.
Mhm.
Because if not, you could do an early retirement out, and then the district was obligated, we've done this many times, paid around $50,000 for a person that did early retirement option, and we had no option in that. So they just decided they wanted to leave it 23 years. They paid in a portion of what they would have to pay, maybe $6,000, and we may pay $50,000.
I think that was changed though, wasn't it? That hadn't been
The
changed.
ERO? Now,
Yeah.
I don't know that they changed that. We've just put in our agreement that if you're eligible for ERO, when you take ERO, you cannot have our 6%.
Well, oh, yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
So and that's why we did that, because we paid out a lot more doing that, and we didn't have a say in that.
Well, I don't even know how many people that would, I don't have any idea how many people would be eligible that don't get that. That's
You know, and we cap it, I think we
not worth
say.
worrying about, or 2 or 15 or.
Right. But-
I didn't understand your question. How many people are eligible for it that don't get it, did you ask me?
How many people don't qualify for that?
Okay, that's a good
Yeah,
question.
not because they're not eligible. Somebody like a secretary, somebody, I don't, but I don't know the numbers.
Right. Well, I
They
think
might
we should-
spend 20 years and not be eligible that because apparently it's not supervisory. Is that right?
Yeah, right. And I can get you that number.
Yeah, well, I don't care. No, I just, that answers my question. Thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else this evening? No?
I added some information to your board packet, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about what we're doing, and answer any questions, because I included a new master schedule for next year to include an hour, 30 minutes of intervention time. The one thing that I noted in here that I have for you is we did a points for cure for Relay for Life the week before spring break, and I said I'd have a total, we raised $949.97, and that's just bringing in coins for the classroom now. Some donate quite a bit more and that, but I'm pretty impressed with that number considering our age, 335 students. I mean, that's a big number there. And we also raised $244 for the Kayla Mueller, Kayla's Hands Challenge. We did that, it's probably been a month ago now. That was $244, and we asked each student to bring $1 to wear a hat that day. So if you look at our total population of about 335 students, that's a majority of our students who partook in that. Or we had parents write a check for the classroom so that everybody could wear a hat that day. So just some things there. I mean, our students and our staff come together for these fundraisers to help our community. I want to invite you to our kindergarten concert. That's next Thursday, the 23rd. We have a 1:30 preview and a 6 o'clock. I put 6:30 in here, but it's 6 o'clock that night. And tomorrow night is our PFO bingo, and all that money we raise tomorrow night goes back into our PFO account, and then they can help with the different activities, field trips, different activities that the students do. And then our art fair is April 30th from 5:30 to 6:30, and I believe that's going to do some honoring of Mrs. Sedlecek, who's retiring. I believe Mrs. Mayhew was working on that a little bit. So to kind of incorporate Mrs. S's retirement into that as well. That's been a big deal this semester too, of trying to make sure that we honor Mrs. S, who has spent so much time in the district with our students. And then you see there, I put a little bit of information in about our new schedule for next year. And I've been sending the teachers out to other schools to see how these other schools are using this 30 minutes of intervention time. Kindergarten and Title went to Crestwood, and then my first and second grade teachers are going to Okaw Valley. On the 23rd, we're going in the morning, because then we need to be back for our kindergarten concert preview in the afternoon. But I'm a part of Elementary Principals Network with the principal at Arcola, set that up last year. And through my network there, I just sent an email out and said, are your schools doing this? If so, are you willing to host us so we can see how you're using your time? And I had several just send an email back, say, yeah, come over whenever you want to. And Okaw Valley's principal shot out a couple dates of not only let us see how they use that time, but also how they're using their data to determine their groups, which is what we're going to do next year, use the groupings based on data to make sure that we help our students in their shortfalls, or also their enrichment, because we don't want this just to be about those students who aren't performing at grade level, but also what are we doing for our kids who are at or above? Because we do have several students who are at or above grade level in reading. I'm hoping that this schedule will eliminate a lot of the interruptions that we have each day, all the pullouts that we have. And I'm also hoping that it's going to open up some time for math interventions, because, you know, we've seen this year that we have students who need some help with math as well. So I'm hoping that this schedule will do that. If you look at this and you have any questions, please make sure that you call, you ask, whatever, because we've spent a significant amount of time looking at different schedules to make sure everybody still gets their, you know, all of their specials time. We didn't want to shortchange any of the students out of PE, music, art, because we know that's very important. So what you see is the schedule that, based on several different, we all kind of agreed upon, and I stamped off on, and so this is where we're going next year to work that 30 minutes of intervention time in. Right now, our focus is just reading, but, you know, we're also looking at writing, math, typing, all of these different demands that will help get our kids ready for Park when they get to Lawrence in 3rd grade. So I'm watching the kids' assessment very closely. That was supposed to be a kindergarten assessment that was supposed to start next year, but now we have another year. I believe next year is a piloting year, but that's going to collect information on our kindergartners, and that's a 3-time-a-year test focusing on different needs of kindergarten students throughout the year. So that'll be something I'll be having to talk to you about at some point as well. So thank you for what you do for us at Memorial and these services you provide our students.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening to address the board?
Do I address the board now or?
I got you down as a regular president.
Okay.
Okay. Consent agenda. In your package, you have minutes from the March 2nd meeting, a list of the bills, and the February treasurer's report. Does anyone have any questions on the consent agenda this evening? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Idle,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Tuttle,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Davis is yes. Secretary's report,
Heard it's 95 cents.
superintendent's agenda.
Could I?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do have a question on there.
She had the wrong date. You asked me that.
That's what I asked about earlier. It says- This, mine says I don't know, says from, 1/1 to 1/3. And I think it was back to 2/1 to
Yeah,
2/20.
she did get the dates changed on
And
several of
we
those.
don't have Marches in here yet.
She just finished Marches today, because she was off.
So will we get that
Yes.
before the
In
next
fact,
meeting, or?
did she not get it to you? She just got it done. Yeah, I'll give it to you.
Because we're about a month behind, I think.
Because she finishes them up the first of the next month, so she just got Marches done today.
Yeah, so that date, these dates should be 2/1.
Yeah. She just didn't
Yeah,
change it on the computer.
Sorry.
It's okay. Superintendent's agenda.
First item on the agenda is Jody Sperry's here, and she's going to give the board a brief overview of the PERC mentoring program that they would like to bring into our schools.
Thank you very much, and as Connie said, I'm presenting information on the PERC mentoring program. This is a new program in our community. It's a nonprofit program. PERC is an acronym for People Encouraging Remarkable Kids. And we truly believe that the kids and students in our community are remarkable. We just want them to believe it. So the vision of the program is to empower the youth through a meaningful relationship that will result in the development of positive social skills, increased self-worth, and then also in turn, improvement in their school, in their academics. So this program was developed around a national model, and then also neighboring communities have a successful program, and they were kind enough to share their procedures and their policies. And this will facilitate a one-on-one relationship between a positive adult role model other than a family member and a child in need. And this will be in the Paris schools in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades at Crestwood and Wentz, and it would take place during the school, during lunch times at the school. It would begin September through May during the school year. The teachers at Crestwood and Wentz are identifying students who would have a need for a positive influence, adult influence in their lives, could benefit from this. The student may be shy, struggling socially, academically, going through some change. Maybe they've just relocated, they're in a new school, having trouble adjusting. Maybe their parents are going through an divorce, a single parent household, grandparents raising the child, just something in their lives that has caused a disruption. A parent or guardian form will be sent home with the student, and that will need to be signed and returned before we could talk to the student about the mentoring. I will be the program coordinator, and then after these forms are returned, that parents give their consent, then I can meet with the student and just ask them some questions to identify what do they like, do they collect things, what's their favorite subject, just different general questions that we can fill out in a form, and then the mentor will have that information the beginning of the year when it starts out in the fall to help them start a conversation, to break the ice with the student, to ask questions, have an interest. They know what they're interested in. Evaluation forms at the end of the program, which would be next May of 2016, will be handed out to the teachers, the students, as well as the mentors. And they will complete those and return them. And then we will use the results from that to evaluate our program and make improvements. Mentors will be recruited from our community, and each mentor is required to have a background check through the DCFS. It does take about 8 weeks to get the results back from that. So that's why we have started in the spring, because if we have to wait 8 weeks before we have that approval, and then also the mentor will agree if he or she continues to be a mentor after the first year and stays with the program. Every 5 years, that would have to be resubmitted. The program, the mentor must commit to having lunch twice a month with the student at school. And this, we want to schedule on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, or Thursdays. Fridays, you have a lot of early dismissal or teachers' institutes. Mondays, sometimes there are legal holidays, or it's kind of busy getting back into the swing of things after the weekend. The mentors will follow the policies and procedures that the schools have. We will have a shared Google Calendar where we can have on the calendar the days, who the mentor is, who the student is, so they know the scheduling, who will be coming to the school for lunch. The mentor can look at this calendar at home or at work. The school, the principal, or the secretary can look at the calendar. They know who's supposed to be coming in that day. I can look at the calendar to know who's supposed to be there. On the days of the scheduled lunch, the mentor will need to call the school to make sure the student is present that day. They will sign in and out of the office, wear a visitor name tag, and they'll be informed, especially if the student has any food allergies, since they were meeting with them during lunchtime. They will also sign on their form that all information is confidential, and that except if they suspect that there is abuse, harm, or neglect. So what are mentors? Mentors are good listeners, they're role models, they're caring adults. They want to help bring out the strengths for these students. A mentor is not a tutor, not a disciplinarian. They are there to be a friend and an advocate for this child. This doesn't sound like a big commitment. It's basically an hour a month because their lunch times are short, 30, 35 minutes at the most. And you may be asking, what are they, how are you going to accomplish anything? Well, some results from a national study that supports the value of mentors says that there's fewer absences from school, they have a better attitude towards school, and they have an increased attitude with social interaction with their peers and also the teachers. So I want to talk about how the program is governed. We have an agency account with the Edward County Community Foundation, so they are our fiduciary, but we're governed by an advisory committee. And this committee is made up of people in the community. They represent different organizations or businesses. We have Trish Vitale, who is representing the Edgar County Community Foundation. Mandy Martin is from NAL. Janelle Adams is representing United Way. Kathy Rhodes is Executive Director of the Chamber. I am the coordinator. And then we have the principals. We have Amy from Wentz and then Danette from Crestwood. Then the timeline, right now we're creating awareness about the program, speaking to organizations, church groups. Been kind enough, the paper has put a lot of articles in the newspaper to spread the word. We've had things on Facebook. We're trying to build awareness. And then also recruiting mentors. And we need to do that now because of the timeline. This summer we'll have an orientation for the mentors. It'll be like a lunch and learn where they'll be presented the information, they'll get their student's name, and then we'll kick it off in the fall. We are excited about this program. It's a place for us to start. We do want to add other services as we grow, and that will support our youth. And this totals up to just 9 hours a year, a school year, in the school with these children. And we have evaluations from a community that's about an hour away from here that they've had mentoring, and their evaluations, the teachers reported that the students' self-confidence increased 83%, their academic performance improved 50%, the class participation improved 52%. Then the parents or guardians also reported that their child's self-confidence improved 88%, and their attitude towards school was better 73%, and then their relationship with their peers was better by 80%. So this is the PERC mentoring program, the new program in the community. Do you have any questions or comments?
Is it limited to 9 hours a year, or is that just the minimum?
That would be the minimum. Now, we're gonna have like a kickoff party in the fall. All the mentors and all
I guess, yeah, I'm asking, can you spend more time with the student than 9 hours, or is that?
Well, in the program, we'll have it just, they can commit to more than twice a month. The minimum would be twice a month to have lunches at the school with them.
But you can do more than that.
If they are available and can commit to that, that's great. But then we will have other activities during the year also. Now, if they want to meet, the mentor wants to meet with that student, like after next year during the summer, or over Christmas break or something like that, that is not part of the mentoring program. They would have to get permission from the parent or guardian to do that, and that would be outside of the program with their permission.
And all this is done within the school grounds? in the
Yes.
school system?
Yes, and the principals will identify, designate a room at the school, so it won't be in the cafeteria. It'll be the noise and the distraction and everyone in there. It'll be, hopefully, we can have a classroom that's vacant during that time. Even if we have to have 2 mentors in there, we can kind of separate them so that they can still talk to their student and not be have the distractions. Any other questions? Any other questions?
When did you say you'd start doing?
They'll start with fall.
In the fall. And you're coordinating through?
Yes,
through-
yes, we met with the principals.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Next, Mr. Larson is here, and he wants to talk about a few ideas he has from our middle school next year.
For the past 3 years, Sam Roberts and I worked pretty well together in really forming the school and Mayo, making sure that, and I've talked about this before, looking at our room usage and just saying, how can we better utilize the space within our school? When I started, we had 2 computer labs. Today we have 6. And we've been able to do that very effectively. And one of the things that I work very hard for is to get my teachers support. So when my teachers need a resource to be able to go do something, I want to give that resource to them. And I know I have to do it within the constraints of the budget that Mrs. Sutton always sets forth, which is every year tightening up on me. And every year Sam and I get together and we get more creative. And it's really become a pleasure working with him, problem solving, saying how can we continue to do more with less and really give our teachers those opportunities. Sam came to me several months ago and said, I think it'd be really neat if we had a STEM lab in our school. And I thought there's no way we can have a STEM lab in our school. It's too expensive. We don't have the space. It's just not going to be possible. Sam said, just give me some of your time and let's sit down with architects. And we started sitting down with architects and talking. We brought Carol Jones in as well, because for me it's really important about the curriculum, because that's ultimately what it's all about. We can have a beautiful space within our school, but at the end of the day, I personally want to say, what can my students be able to do, and what do they know? And so it's important for me, that end result with my students. So we really took a curriculum perspective on this, and next year we have it planned for and budgeted within our school budget, not asking for any more from Mrs. Sutton, to actually have a STEM lab at Mayo Middle School. And so we're really excited about this opportunity. It's not your traditional STEM lab, it's very curriculum based, but what I'm proud about is that we're going to take a very interdisciplinary approach on this. So specifically, when you think of STEM, you instantly think science, technology, engineering, and math, and that's what STEM stands for. But really, when you think about STEM, it's completely interdisciplinary. So for example, Sam and I sat down during our spring break for 2 hours at NAL, speaking with Mandy Martin and also with Ethan Garcia, the head of HR, and they'll tell you that when they sit there and they talk about their projects within their own facilities, they have to bring someone in who knows about art. You might have someone who knows about the historical aspect of it. It's completely interdisciplinary. For me personally, I think the importance is also on the communication skills. So when I think of STEM, I think of my teachers being able to present a problem to my students, for them to be able to research that independently or collaboratively, come up with a solution, and be able to communicate their solution to one another, debating that with each other. Because that's how the workforce is, where you have to be able to problem solve, communicate your solutions, debate with one another, and come to a final conclusion. So we're going to provide that space within our school, and Sam and I worked extensively on this, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate him to create a room within our school where students have the workspace to have this happen, because this is going to create a lot of project-based learning, hands-on learning. And so it's going to be something that we're going to work on each year to kind of build up, but I'm excited to offer that opportunity to my teachers so they can have those interdisciplinary projects and have the space and time to do it. And so we're very proud of that. And it's with a classroom that's a large classroom as of right now that we really haven't been able to fully utilize like we want to. It just kind of sits there. It's this large classroom, so it's going to be very nice to be able to utilize that room more effectively for our students. And it will be a room that can be checked out just like a computer lab. So a teacher can say, I'm going to go into this room for the next week, and I'm going to be able to work with my students in this interdisciplinary project, and teachers can teach at that time through that curriculum. So it's pretty exciting. Some of the other things that are exciting about it is that when Sam and I talked with NAL, they said that they're going to offer us an entire problem-solving course where they can come into our school, and just like they do problem-solving with their corporate executives to get them thinking, they're going to actually come into our school and do a problem-solving course with our kids to get them thinking critically. We also have a few other activities planned out with NAL that we're pretty excited about, including some projects, and we'll give you more information as that's developed, and we continue to collaborate with them. And two other parts to this is I've already contacted Kathy Rhodes, and I'm also going to be contacting Kiwanis, contacting Rotary, and going around making presentations about this. I really want to partner with businesses. Now I told Ethan Garcia right off the bat at NAL, I know so often at schools we come to them and we're asking for money. I'm not asking for money for my equipment or for my room. I'm really only asking for two things. One could be money. So I put that right on the table. And what that money is that we're asking for $250 or somewhere around there. And the purpose of that is for projects and supplies. So you figure if I'm a science teacher and I have 100 kids, that's $2.50 a kid. If you can't help out financially, what you also can do is commit your time. And what I told Ethan is I said I would actually, and I can tell you this very honestly as a principal, I would rather businesses send people into my school to work with my kids, because I told him that's great if they send us money and we have that project, but I really want my kids to be able to form a relationship with someone. And when we're going back and forth in this project, it'd be great to have an actual engineer in my classroom with my kids working through a project hands-on, because that's just going to be a lot of information for them to gain for their future. And so those are the two ways that you can work with us. And then we're going to be giving out a STEM certificate at the end of the year at Honors Night, which Honors Night is always a big night at Mayo. And we're going to be able to have them actually come and help pass out those certificates to kids who did an outstanding job. And I think that's going to mean a lot to a kid to have an engineer from NAL or some local business owner or someone from, even someone who might not be from a business like Chuck Hand, who wants to come and work with my kids on this project and that problem solving and come be a part of that night. It's great just to pull community into our school. So I'm really excited about this opportunity of developing this. Do you have any questions for me?
Do you have equipment that you have to add for this?
As of right now, it's basically furniture is what we're adding. This is furniture. And we're going to have a few computers around the room, but it's mostly furniture. So it's pretty low budget. And that's one of the things that I've talked about is as we move forward, it's something that we're wanting to continue to develop as the projects come forward. I understand that this is a time where the budget's lean, but it's also, at the same time, my responsibility to continue to offer resources to my teachers so that they can continue to improve their instruction. Do you have any other questions about this?
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
I just was curious as to what room you're looking at.
Okay, we're going to be using the room that is the old choir room, right off of the cafeteria. So it's a large room. Right now, the choir room is basically used as a study hall room. So
does this mean there's never going to be a choir at Mayo again?
our choir is an after-school program. So
Is there a particular reason why,
that we have it as an after-school program.
instead of during the curriculum day?
That was the decision that was made 2 years ago or a
We
year
only
ago.
had one period.
We only had
and
one
enough
class.
Students for one class.
I've had this recently brought up, and I'll talk about it, because I had Mr. Meister call me about this. We only had choir one class period a day. That's all that we had, was choir. We have the same amount of students participating in choir now that we had previously. So our choir program has not changed, having it as an after-school program. We have a certified math teacher, Jonathan Board, who does the choir program, and I can tell you that it's important for me as a principal to offer programs within my school. I've done summer fitness programs with my kids. I do movie nights on the weekends and on evenings. So I'm all about offering my kids as many resources as possible and not cutting from them. At the same time, if I can switch the funding to an after-school program, save my district money, because that's what we need to do, and sustain the program at the same level that it was before, I don't know why I wouldn't do that. Before, we had a half-time person that we were paying for who taught one class period a day. She taught one class period, and we were paying her 50% of what a teacher pays. I have that after-school program now where I have kids who used to not be able to do it. So I actually offered more programs because I had kids who were in band who could not be in choir.
Students couldn't do choir.
Or I also had students,
Right, I know that.
or I also had students who were in special ed who needed resource minutes to work on their homework where they could not be part of that program. So now I'm able to do that after school and give all those kids the same opportunity, sustain my program, save the district money. And I know when I talk to Mr. Meister, he thinks I'm cutting the program, but I can say that I'm not. I can say my program numbers are the same. And I feel confident about that. So.
I just wondered because I just see so many things after school, track, basketball, softball, and so that just.
Yeah, I think no matter where you put it in the day, kids are gonna have to make choices. I can tell you, putting it after school, you have more choices, and we're able to be more flexible with our schedule. Having it within the school day, it's really hard when I have a kid who's 3 reading levels behind and is getting pulled out of choir to go to RTI. And then they're not getting to participate in it like they are. A kid who's in a special ed program, a kid who's in band. So I feel like I'm able to sustain the program. So.
And we could go both ways with that. We could say, you know, we could eventually, maybe that number will build, and maybe we're not gonna build our numbers as much, you know, maybe that, you know, if we don't have a full, but those were the numbers we had when we could have utilized the individual half of the day, and we still didn't have those kids signing up, and it was for various reasons. Some of them were that they couldn't be in band and choir, some were they had other, they needed a study hall, or.
I firmly believe that my program has more opportunity for kids, and it saves my district money. So I feel it was the right decision.
I just wondered with
yeah.
the new high school out there and the theater and everything else that's going on
And we continue to work with the high school. Like this program, we're not just doing this to do it, we're doing it because we want to continue to help our kids build up to that level of what our expectations are for our high school. The same thing would be true of our theater program. I can tell you, working with Mrs. Moody right here and Marie Winsett, we have had great concerns about them moving out there, and we want to make sure that our program can continue on so we're not hurting our theater program. In the same light, we don't want to take up their space and get in their way. So we very early on in the discussion have met as a parent group and said, what do we need to start doing to plan for our students to have those same fine arts programs and not get in the way of the high school and work with them. I can tell you that I've already put in a letter to Dave Meister and to Dan Lynch to make sure I have space in that theater if they will so graciously allow me. And so,
Have they indicated to you if you're gonna have to pay for that space?
that's to be determined. from what I
Wasn't that
understand.
discussed the other night?
I thought it was discussed, and we indicated that the schools would not pay a fee. Any
Okay, I didn't
outside,
understand
yeah,
that. But
that's what my understanding would be, because both districts are paying for the.
I thought they
theater.
said it was a co-op board decision.
It is a co-op board, but
Okay.
that's both districts.
Okay.
You know, but outside events, there will have to be some type of fee, even for at least cleanup and maintenance and to offset some utility costs, because whereas the city in that particular trust that we got part of the money from the trust set up, the city was going to pay all of the utilities, the maintenance for a community theater. Well, the district will be paying all of those costs to run the lights and the heat and the air. So if they bring in other events, there will be some type of fee assessed for whatever.
It's kind of off the subject, but did you read the thing that he handed out, something about per ticket price?
That's what I was gonna say, our understanding, I think, last was not that we were paying a flat, going to pay a flat fee, that we were gonna be, they were gonna get a cut of our door.
Yeah, that's what it
Let's
says.
tell
in-
you that.
That the high school would, or who would get a cut of your door?
That's what it
I
said
said
in
in
the
high
thing,
school.
and the thing that Dan passed out at the meeting.
I'm going to high school board meeting.
Okay, well, I knew you were going, and I thought it was just to make sure you had your time slot in.
Well, I mean, I wanna make sure we have a time slot, but
Right,
it also seems to be up in the air as to what our fee's gonna be.
Okay.
At first it was a flat fee, potentially a flat fee, we were kinda waiting on you guys to meet.
okay,
Right, the board,
the committee.
your committee for the, and then it turned into that it was gonna be it was gonna, I didn't hear it really discussed, but it
No, that's
turned into it was
fine.
gonna be a cut of our tickets.
I don't do
A cut of our
emails.
yeah, I don't think the
I
co-op
don't do
board is.
emails.
You may get it tonight, but I mean, I was at the I was at the meeting, I got one, and you got it.
And I think that's where our
It
information
was
came,
a
was
thing
from the
that
meeting.
Dan had done a long time ago on his thoughts for the theater. I think he put together a little folder, and we may have all gotten one, and he handed it out to this committee on just the way it may be set up, but I don't know that we really discussed fees for like Mayo or Crestwood.
Because I asked that question specifically that
Because we're
night.
paying the bill anyway. I mean, we're paying the high school bill, so I don't know that there should be any,
It seems to be like it's good there before the school system starts.
Yes.
The school system can't benefit from it.
right. We should benefit further in that. And then it will be a community theater as well though, and my understanding would be that any outside events, if there were ticket fees and all, there would be a portion of that to help, just to help
Take a look
offset
at
clean
that,
up.
because that's not one of the
Okay.
favorites.
Okay, I need to be, and we'll probably, maybe that, you're gonna ask that maybe tonight at the.
Well, not, I mean, not necessarily, no, because.
Well, I mean, that'd be a good question.
It ought to be the May meeting,
But that'd be a
Because
good
you have to
question
get
to
into a class,
bring
but-
up, and Dan may be there.
but, I mean, and we'll figure it out, we've got a committee together to try to, so because Mayo just doesn't have the funding for that drama program, so we're gonna try to start a drama parents program there like we have at the high school that helps
Mhm.
them. I mean, I just don't wanna see that program die, I mean, some of those kids, that's all they do.
Oh, which if you didn't go to the play, and I don't know if you did, talking about the choirs and the wonderful, and Mayo does, and I know Crestwood puts on a really nice, every year, a play and all too, so we are keeping the arts in. It's just sometimes, like I said, we had a person that was one period a day, and we're still servicing the same number of students, and at a
Well,
fraction
I
of
mean,
the.
when she started in sixth grade, she had to put band to do choir, and they had a big choir with Susan Hiddle.
Mhm.
Well, then Susan left her eighth grade year, and they got down to three. Only had three in the choir, I mean, you know, you've got a teacher, you're paying for 3 students, and
Personally, I hope both school districts could use it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of what's, I mean, the school,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the school still uses
Still get a
it.
priority.
You arrange when one's gonna have a play,
The
but
way
the
I
other's gonna
think
have
we
one
do
that's
get a
that's for
priority
them to
use.
use.
We do
Yeah.
want it,
and I appreciate that.
I don't know what it was thinking. I'll have to check.
it just seems to be kind of up in the air, you know, with how it's all been put together. Yeah, so we just, I mean, we just wanna make sure we have a day and figure out what's gonna cost. Sorry, Jeremy.
I just want to talk about band and chorus room. So band does not meet every hour, so in the future, if chorus would ever get added back into the day, chorus could meet in the band room.
because
We
they
have
don't
plenty
need
of
every.
space, acoustically sound, it would be perfect.
Yeah.
So we have space in
Well, yeah, the
the future.
acoustics would be
Just to let you know
good.
that. So that is our plan in the future. Thank you.
No, that's a very good question though, because we are about the art and we have taken away, even with our budget problems and different issues, and I think Steve's gonna talk a little bit about looking at, you know, every district's hurting in their budget. We still have reserves, but if the state keeps doing what they're doing, Nancy and I have talked about it, we're going to be cutting and doing whatever we have to do to survive, like anybody downstate or people. So hopefully we get something done with funding, but we're trying to do and to keep providing, because we do have art in our schools and music in our schools and PE in our schools, which we didn't have any of those when I first started here. We didn't even have PE
It would seem to
teachers.
me we have such a nice facility
Yeah.
that it would be foolish not to consider it to be a profit center for the schools to allay some of our other costs that might be a revenue generating type thing for.
We are hoping it will be, generate some revenue as well, even in the community use. but-
Until they can figure out what it really costs to run that room, it's gonna be really hard to come up with a fee for that room. Until that room's fired up and used, no caring what the model says that they've created, we're gonna have to see it, or District 95, 50% of it, and Unit 4, the same thing, would want to see what it's gonna cost to run that room, because it may cost a lot more than we're all thinking, or it may cost a lot less, but I think that's something y'all ought to think about before you start setting fees.
It's going to be constant, and this is one thing we discussed when we were even in our consolidation talks, which we'll probably get back into, but the point is, we didn't have a real good feel for what the new high school costs will be, and we still don't yet. We know utility costs there are extremely high right now, it's because they're running a lot of things overtime and they're doing things, but we also, I would estimate that they would be higher than what we're currently paying, even with heat pumps and everything, because we don't currently heat a gymnasium, or cool a gymnasium and cool a 500-seat theater. So we obviously have some additional maintenance costs and mowing costs and those things, so we needed to have a lot better idea of what the theater and those things before a board probably could sit down and say, you know what, this is what we're gonna need for us to do this, because we have limited dollars, and we can't go out and get any more, so,
Yeah, that seems to me like something that probably should be in the process.
yeah, Yeah, well, and Dan's got a good plan and he started and he's looking at some of these business issues. But like Sam said, until you really know what your costs are, it's gonna be hard for a co-op board to say, well, this is what we're gonna charge someone. Or this is what, and I don't know about that ticket price thing, so maybe, but about asking
Either
schools.
way, usually we want to get on the calendar and then we'll deal with the pricing issue later.
Right. And they may want to do something like, if it, I don't know, because both districts pay into the utilities, so maybe if it's a 95 event or, maybe we'll do something that way to offset, but that's still to be determined.
Just a thought, with only one electric meter at our new school, it's gonna be really hard to gauge what it costs to run that room. It might be money ahead to drop another electric meter in that is only running the power that's running the theater. We talked about that early on in the first build, and that kind of went away in the second build, but that'd be a real good way if you have an outside group come in that you can really see what that's costing
Yeah,
to run.
you need to meter that building. If you're gonna
Yeah,
We
meter
talked
separate,
about, well, we talked about,
Yeah, I know.
right, I'm just throwing those thoughts out to you all, because that's the only way you're gonna be able to really gauge, because that building's so huge with so much load,
Yeah,
of all the other fans running, heat pumps, and, different
because
things.
you'll never
It'll
be able to figure that out.
Oh, it
like
would
you
take
said,
a
with the-
mathematician times a million to figure it out.
Heated and cool all the time?
Pardon me?
Do we keep that room heated and cool all the time?
It goes to a minimum setting, yeah, there's a schedule that says they run the same software that we run. It goes to a minimum setting, all things have to be, kept at a certain temperature. We have fancy woods in there, those things can't get too hot or too cold, so yes, it's gonna be heated and cooled 100% of the time, so yes.
Which is wonderful,
Oh, there's nothing
just
wrong.
like Winston Memorial had air conditioning.
It's gonna be
We
great.
have that in our old
But I'm saying,
building, but it's more money.
The incremental costs may not be as large as we think they're gonna be
May
if
not.
we're doing it
Right,
anyway.
Right.
right,
And you're only gonna be in there for a period of time.
right.
Right, and
I-
Mr. Cordy at Paris High School will be able to control that building. He has software that he'll be able to set schedules, temperatures, which is gonna help our costs.
I would be hoping for the school's use, there would be minimum or no real cost, because we're already paying the cost, but when you're bringing in outside entertainment and groups are coming in, naturally, we don't let people use our facility that are making money. At this point, we do use our facility, but if they say we're charging a price at the door or something, then we charge. That would be the same way with this theater. You're gonna sell $25 tickets or $35 tickets, and Brett Eldridge is gonna be here, or whoever. There's gonna have to be some cost paid back to the school for the use.
But as far as like Mayo using it in the drum,
I don't see
I would
that.
like to see them go in there and use it free
That's
and then
what I-
collect the tickets and then use that money for their own.
For their
Down
program,
there,
keep
Mayo.
it alive.
I'm not saying they
Yeah.
have to go in there and practice all, but they ought to be able to perform in there and use it if it's not being used. I mean, on a schedule and stuff, that's just the
I
way
think we've
I.
asked for 3 weeks, 2 weeks for rehearsals and 1 week, or 3 weeks for rehearsal, I guess,
And-
and 3 days for the play.
Where it could run into would be some of your practice, if this theater group is gonna have some big shot come in, that they may say, that could be every now and then a conflict, but I think the school choice will always come first. And it,
Coordination.
coordination with the
Yeah,
schools.
yeah.
Dan's got a schedule now, and I'm wondering if you guys are already on it.
No, we have 3 meetings tonight, also. We have a 5 o'clock meeting for the.
I know,
For
we're
the
gonna
high
have to
school,
get up
so
there,
I mean,
too.
we've got the high school board meeting and the driving parents meeting. So.
Yeah,
So
so,
and I work with him on an executive board there, so I mean, not that anybody's not.
no, I know what you mean.
I mean, just, we wanna make sure we have it on the calendar,
Mhm. I got you.
and then we'll figure out the fee later.
Okay, and we'll probably bring this up a little bit more at the co-op board meeting as well. So that's good, no, good conversation.
Thank you, Jeremy, for your
Yes,
presentation.
yes.
Sounds like a great idea with the STEM lab and trying to get things ready for kids moving on. And I think Crestwood's maybe planning on doing something as well in that aspect of.
How many kids do
combining
you
this.
anticipate as being affected by this?
Well, it would be available for all 300 of my students. So it'd be like a computer lab that you can check out and work with. And I specifically have summer work planned to set aside for my teachers to be able to work on this with them. And they're really excited about it. I just want to say, I can't tell you the number of times I had teachers say to me, I just don't have the room in my classroom to do the projects that I want. The kids that you have, 20, 25 kids packed in a room, sitting in rows of desks. They just need more room to space out. So I'm excited to offer that opportunity to my teachers.
I think it's
What is the maximum capacity at one time in that room?
in your course room.
Oh, I can tell
Sam.
you.
70.
It's pretty big.
It's
About
usually.
two classrooms.
Yeah, it's at least 2 classrooms, I would say.
I also want to say, just an I apologize, the Washington DC trip went very well for Mayo Middle School, and I appreciate all the chaperones and support for that. And I also want to say thank you to Mr. Roberts and all the administrators.
Mr. Nick Roberts.
Well, Mr. Sam Roberts.
Nick went with you.
Because the park, well, I want to talk about our park testing went very smoothly, and there were several school districts were completely shut down, and they could not test their kids. And I was very excited and happy and proud that our school district ran a very smooth program, and it's because the administrators worked very well together, and our teachers were well prepared, and so I appreciate my teachers and all the administrators working together.
Yeah, we heard where many districts, they had so many glitches, and they went through glitches for a month. It was really, Carol, Jeremy, Sam, anything that could happen, if a screen would black out because it was updating or downloading something, and maybe a child would have lost a whole test. They figured out how to get around that so a child wasn't on the computer and then in the middle of the test and the screen goes black and he doesn't know what to do, maybe turn it off or something and wipe out the test. So I was extremely proud of all the work that went into it by all the administrators and the IT staff, Sam, and worked out really smoothly. So I'm going to have to get through the rest of this because we need to get to the co-op meeting as well. We have one honorable dismissal this evening, and this is a dismissal. I have a resolution of a dismissal of a support staff person who at Memorial School who had was a one-on-one aid for a student. The student has since moved, and if we don't do the dismissal, then we may not have a position for that person next year. So basically, I would ask that the board approve a resolution for the non-renewal of, and I'm trying to look for her name, Ashlyn Hayes. Ashlyn Hayes for the 15-16 school year. I'm asking for a vote on that, but the other part to that is Ashlyn will be notified in writing and hand-delivered, and you've already talked with her as well. She's aware of this. But if there is a callback or we need another person for a position that she's qualified to fill, or if we have another student needing aid, she would be the first callback as well, and she would be made aware of that. So I would ask the board to approve the honorable dismissal of Ashlyn Hayes for the 15-16 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, Idle,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Tuttle,
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Davis, yes.
Okay, I'm also going to ask for the board to approve the employment for another year for Martha Whitaker to serve as part-time LD teacher when school. Our numbers warrant that we only need her for this position. We did cost factors, we looked at what salaries, and the difference would be from hiring a full-time, it'd be a difference of about $22,000. And Amy has told me that really for this year, all she needs, or at least for one more year, now numbers change, would be this part-time position for Martha. So, and she's,
What is it called?
Martha's is 20-some thousand too, and I don't remember. Is it in there?
It's on the signature thing, in the signature file.
475?
Maybe 27.
Sure, that one's a little quicker than I do.
Probably on the front page or on the flipped over.
Yeah,
I think it's
well,
$475.
27.5.
27.
I do have a asking for a vote, so.
Okay.
you want-
Idle,
Move.
you have moved?
We haven't moved yet.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know, has anybody moved
So
the,
moved.
okay.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, Idle,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Tuttle,
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Davis is yes.
Okay, at this time, I'm just going to ask the board for the renewal of the 3 administrative contracts, Amy Perry, Gary John, and Jeremy Larson for the 15-16 school year. I'm not asking for anything else at this point. When new board members are seated, if we do ask for any extensions or anything different than that, I will bring it up at that time. So I would ask for the contract renewal of Amy Perry, Gary Don, and Jeremy Larson for the 15-16 school year.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? If not, Idle,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Tuttle,
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Davis is yes.
Okay, next on the agenda is the school calendar. Lorraine and I and Dave worked back and forth on this for several months, and we have finalized the calendar. It is in your packet. It would begin on August 12th with the Teacher Institute. We began last year, I believe it's the 13th of August. On the 13th and 14th would be Thursday, Friday with half pupil attendance days. And then the following week of the 17th would begin full day pupil attendance. If we use the 5 emergency days, school would end on May 31st. If we do not use them, school would be out on May 23rd. And the APT has also received a copy of the calendar. So at this time, I would ask the board approve the school calendar for the 15-16 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, Idle,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Tuttle,
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Davis is yes.
We also asked the IESA membership renewal applications for Carolyn Winston Mayo Middle School. These are required every year. I've asked the board to approve their IESA memberships.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, Idle,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Tuttle,
Yes.
Bailey. Davis is yes.
Okay, the next is a bank transfer resolution. There are 2 bank transfer resolutions in, for District 95 construction account for the Paris Cooperative High School to move it to their account. First is for in the amount of $123,230.42. The second is in the amount of $316,276.12. These are for construction bills for February, and some of those came in later, and Dave sent us revised bills after we held our March board meeting. So I'd ask the board to approve these 2 bank transfer resolutions.
Any discussion? If not, Idle.
Wait a minute. So moved.
Second.
Sorry,
Sorry.
that's twice I've done it tonight. Idle,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Tuttle,
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Davis is yes.
Okay, the next is a facility request. In your package, you got a request from Nick Roberts to allow the Paris Predators softball team to use the Mayo softball field in June and July. They did give us proof of their insurance, and they'll be responsible for costs of using the field. So I would ask on his recommendation that the board approve the request from the Paris Predators softball team.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, Idle,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Tuttle,
Yes.
Bailey. Davis is yes.
Okay, we also have a donation tonight from Mr. Sam Roberts, and Sam is donating $250 to apply to the Mayo STEM Lab. So I ask the board to approve this kind of donation.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Idle,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Tuttle,
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Davis is yes.
If you want to match it, Nancy, you can.
Match
Check, or we take cash or check.
You didn't ask you, Mick.
Well, I know.
That's the Washington.
Any committee reports, public hearings and petitions, unfinished business, matters to follow up, new business, right to revert?
Can the board members go? They need to be there at 5.
Well, they can't start without them.
Well, I know.
Okay.
This text him, telling we're gonna be
Gotta be a
out.
little
Okay. I have been asked by various people in the community a lot of financial questions, and I'm almost ashamed to say that I've not been up to date as I should have been on some of these numbers, and I've recently dug into them and found that probably there's more meat on that bone than most of us really realize. And I've suggested to Mrs. Sutton that we have a workshop, a financial workshop for board members, new board members included, after they get seated, so that we can discuss in an in-depth manner our financial situation, our future, anything that may need to be looked at more extensively. So I think that's something that's very, very critical to our well-being and our future, and we don't want to be in a position where we're eating our seed.
Steve and I talked about this a lot about today, and especially in light of, and Nancy and I talked about it at length, yes, we still have our reserves, and I have never said that we could not get into any financial troubles, because we're gonna be like every other district. If we don't get a state aid payment this year, we're gonna lose 200 and some thousand dollars right there. So we need to be proactive. We also needed to wait and see what our high school costs were before we even know if we needed to go out for a consolidation. So we have been prudent there, but Steve's is right. We predict, we estimate our budget, and then the state comes back, they tell us they're giving us $6 million in state aid, we budget for whatever, we even budget less, because we always budget low for our revenue and high for our expenditures, is how we survive. But then if they don't send us 2 payments,
There's just a lot more to it
Right.
than this, there's the, you know, EAV and the.
EAV's gone down over $1 million.
Our actual financial report versus our budgeted, I mean, there's just a lot to it that needs to be understood if we don't, and I didn't, but I'm starting to get a feel for it. I'm sure you do, that's your business, but.
Yeah.
And maybe y'all are up to date, and maybe I'm the wall, but
No,
I think
it's
something we need to
pretty
do,
complicated and.
especially the new board members coming in.
Well, can I say real quickly too, that, and we do need to have this, and we will, and we want to have it when our new members are on, but to congratulate again Kevin and Cindy for, they're going to be our new members, and will be seated in May. And so we're planning to have maybe that first week at some point, one of these, like a workshop, well, it'll be open, but it'll be a board workshop, so. Is that, all right? Okay.
Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Ida?
Yes.
Isaac?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Tuttle?
Yes.
Bailey? Davis, yes. Meeting adjourned.